So Bernie Sanders went on The Breakfast Club. You don't know what The Breakfast Club is? It's it's a radio show with Charlemagne the God, with DJ Envy and Angela Yee. I knew about them for a long time now because I'm an old hip hop head. But they have on presidential candidates for interviews now, and we did a video on Kamala Harris, who went on there and had a really, really cringy interview, man. She had a really fake laugh going, and her pandering was to an all-time high, and she had basically ended up lying because she said that she had, she smoked in college, and she said she was listening to Pac and Snoop at the time, but when she was in college, they weren't even out yet. Their first albums had came out like 5 or more years after she had graduated college. So it ended up getting pretty bad for her on that front, dude. But they had Bernie Sanders on, and they really, went after him, is what it looks like, because there's this reparations attack that's going on him now, which when it comes to reparations, I'm actually not against reparations. I just want to see an actual proposal, because I'm cool with the idea of reparations. Now I want to see like an actual proposal, like here's exactly to the T what we want, or at least a rough estimate or something. Is it just cash? Is it land? What is it specifically? So I'm waiting on that. And so they really tried to kind of grill him on that kind of stuff. But there were a couple parts when I was watching this that I was like, what are you guys doing? And so this first part is going to be, and I believe it's Envy who said, I can't remember if it was Envy or Charlemagne who says this, but they're going to bring up the false statement or the false thought that in any way Bernie supporters contributed to Trump's election. Check it out.
Ask about that as well. When you ran last time, a lot of the people that followed you and rode with you to the end. Like they would rather not vote than to vote for Hillary.
Yeah, they weren't going from Bernie to Hillary.
They weren't going from Bernie to Hillary, and that's part of the reason why I think that Donald Trump was in. How do we make sure that regardless of what happens, that the Democratic Party is united?
Good question. So let me say what I think I said a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do everything I can to be the Democratic nominee. I think I am the strongest candidate to defeat Trump. I think I can win in states that Secretary Clinton lost: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, etc. What I pledge to you, and what I've said already, is that if I am not the nominee, I will do everything I can, as I did when Secretary Clinton was the candidate. I knocked my brains out. I resent a little bit some of the criticism that comes of me. Yeah. I ran all over this country. I think we did 35 rallies in, 13, 14 states to get her elected. Now, your point is, well, some Bernie supporters did not vote for Hillary.
Yeah.
True,
Mm-hmm.
but that always happens. Think back in 2008 when Obama ran against Clinton in the primary, okay? A far greater number of people who voted for Clinton ended up voting for John McCain, okay, and did not vote for Obama than was the case in my race. So it always happens, that some people are going to flake off. But I did my best to say we got to do everything we can not to elect this guy, Donald Trump. And, getting back to Trump for a moment.
That wouldn't have been as bad if it was worded as a question rather than a statement, because the problem I have with that was it was in a way making it seem like it was a truism that was being stated, and how do we not have that happen? It wouldn't have been as bad if, they said, it seems like it did that happen, and if so, how can we prevent that? No, they were like, we already know it happened, like, how do we prevent that from happening again? And Bernie was clearly pissed off about that. And he actually debunked it on the fly there, as you guys saw. There's a very widely debunked talking point, because it's extremely stupid. The idea is that in some way, Bernie Sanders was not supportive of Hillary Clinton. And this one is really stupid because he sacrificed a lot, okay? He sacrificed a lot of his supporters who now say that he's a sellout to the DNC and the establishment because he supported Hillary Clinton. But they don't care about that. That doesn't matter to them because they're so egocentric. It's irrelevant to them, right? But, guys, Bernie Sanders campaigned in states that Hillary didn't even go to. So, for example, remember Wisconsin that she lost, which she's now saying that it was because of voter suppression, which is not true. she didn't even step foot in Wisconsin once. Not even a single time. Do you know who went to Wisconsin on the behalf of Hillary Clinton? Bernie Sanders. He went to a state that Hillary Clinton didn't even go to campaign in. They should be thanking Bernie for at least trying to help her dumpster fire garbage can of a fucking campaign where you didn't even go to important states to go to, and then you lose it, and you blame the person who went there to campaign on your behalf. And as he explained there, he did a ridiculous stretch of these events in such a short amount of time. And it's, the idea that he didn't support him, and then B, that Bernie supporters were a contributor to her loss, which is totally false, unfounded, and just false, man. In 2008, there were, I believe it was 25% of Hillary voters who voted for McCain and not Obama. Think about how big of a percentage that is, dude. That's a lot of voters, okay? 25%, you're looking at 1/4 of your voters went for McCain and not Obama. You should be crucified for that. But Bernie's was only 12%, and what I read is there was a good portion of that who were Republicans who voted for Trump because they're Republicans, which is like, oh shit, a Democrat was able to get Republicans to agree with his positions and vote for him. That's pretty crazy, and that's another indicator as to why Bernie should, be the candidate for the presidency, and that's why he should win this time around. So I'm glad Bernie debunked that on the fly. But when you set it up as this sort of a truism, not even as like a question. No, it's not even a question. It's like, this happened, blank happened. What can we do to make sure that blank doesn't happen again? Which is like, yo, dog, you can't do that. When you have a platform like that, that's unacceptable. Now, the second clip we're going to be looking at here is really a horrible one. This is DJ Envy. And I think that Envy is throwing in shots here and there because I think he's a conservative guy. He says he's an entrepreneur and he wants like lower taxes on corporations and stuff. So I think that he has to kind of like be a two-faced bitch, basically, where he has to pretend like he's not Republican, but throw in little like jabs in here and there. And I the reason I say that he's like that is because I've seen him say that he supported Trump lowering corporate tax rates, and I've also seen his debate that he had with Killer Mike. By the way, let me know your thoughts on that debate. I'm very curious to hear them. But anyways, back to this point. It's going to be about Bernie's harassment that happened in his campaign and comparing it to Trump. Check it out.
What about all these women that come forward and have these allegations against Trump, having harassed them, pull them in, kiss them, and somehow it just gets brushed over? And I'm not understanding why people don't take that seriously.
Well, you know why?
They said there was a young lady that asked the other day about you having harassment claims in your campaign as well, and you said that you were upset about that.
Yep.
So it's kind of the same thing.
Well, no, it's not about me. It's about my campaign, which had 1,200 employees. Mm-hmm. And I am upset. We put together our campaign quite quickly, and there were problems in it. I don't deny it, and I'm embarrassed by that. That ain't going to happen again. We have now instituted, I think, the strongest protocol to protect women or anybody against sexual harassment. But to answer your question, the problem with dealing with Trump is that every day there is another outrage.
See, now that kind of a thing is absolutely unacceptable because now you're basically just slandering the man in front of him. And here's why. What Angela Yee is talking about is she's saying that there are women who are accusing Trump of actual, like, Donald J. Trump doing the harassment, like pushing up on him, kissing him, doing this and that. There's a bunch of women who have alleged that, by the way. There's a lot of them, okay? Though what happened to Bernie wasn't that there were allegations of him doing anything like that. It's people in his campaign that he didn't keep under wraps. And this is a problem and I appreciate Bernie's, the way that he's going about it is kind of like, I made a mistake and we're going to fix that. And we have even stronger, safeguards in place than other campaigns. Because remember this, guys, this happened in Hillary's 2008 campaign that we learned about. And I believe it also may have happened in one of Kamala's campaigns although I can't remember if that one is right, but it definitely happened in Hillary's campaign, and that never gets talked about for obvious reasons, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And dude, that's just a disgusting thing to do. It's not the same thing. It's not even close. Do you have any idea how slanderous a statement like that is? You're trying to say that Trump doing harassment straight up to people, to women, like, allegations of pushing up on them and kissing them and stuff like that, which, nobody doubts at this point because we know the stuff that he said. And Bernie didn't do anything. It was his campaign that, was really hard to keep under control, and he's now fixed a bunch of the problems with that, and these are problems that are not, exclusive to Bernie's campaign. This happens in a bunch of campaigns. So it's disingenuous to single Bernie out as to imply and advance this narrative that he's some Bernie bro, male-centric type guy. That was a really appalling one. It was a lot worse than the previous one that we looked at, because while the previous one is horrible too, this one is crazy bad. Anyways, overall, it was the interview. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The setup wasn't very good, and it just wasn't very. I don't know. I just wasn't all that big of a fan of it. But, anyways, let me know your thoughts on, the interview. How did it go? And they also, by the way, actually, before I end this, I want to mention that Charlemagne tried, he ended up basically trying to go after Bernie with this little shot where he says, what have you done specifically for African Americans? And Bernie basically says, hey, I marched during the Civil Rights era. And then he goes, what about legislation? So now we're talking about, now the litmus test basically is, if you haven't done, proposed a bill in the Senate that specifically affects African Americans, you're not a candidate. You're not a good candidate. As if Medicare for all doesn't affect African Americans, if free college education doesn't affect African Americans, if criminal justice reform that he's proposed doesn't affect African Americans. It was just overall, there were a lot of disgusting parts in there. And they didn't keep the same energy with any of the other candidates. Okay, they didn't keep that same energy with Kamala Harris. Charlemagne, in fact, was more like, just sucking her off basically that whole time and just giving her softball after softball. And it was pretty disgusting to watch. But let me know your thoughts on this interview down below.